Hi everybody, this is God's Girl G. Thank you so much for joining me today. For those of you that are new to my channel, welcome. And for those of you returning to this channel to watch this video and you are not already subscribed, I want to encourage you to do so by clicking the subscribe icon below. And if during the course of this video you hear something that you like, click the thumbs up, comment below, or better yet, share this video with someone who you feel could benefit from this information. With that stated, let's get into today's discussion. If you were to look up bad girls of the Bible in the dictionary, you would see my girl Jezebel's picture right next to that phrase, because she certainly was a bad girl of the Bible. Back in my day, you can consider yourself cussed out if the name Jezebel showed up in someone else's speech referring to you. So in this video, I am going to be talking about my next bad girl of the Bible, Jezebel. And before some of y'all click away because she's just so bad, there's nothing that we can learn from her, I'm going to challenge that because there are some things that we can learn from Jezebel. If there was ever an example of how one woman's influence can make or break you, then Jezebel in the Bible would have to be it. She was ruthless and determined, and fiercely religious about her worship of the pagan god Baal. She used her position as queen to enforce worship of Baal in Israel. Now, Baal worship was all about fertility, and this included an emphasis on sexual promiscuity. No woman in the Bible was more identified with wickedness and treachery than Jezebel, queen of Israel, wife of King Ahab, and persecutor of the prophets of God. Her name, which means chaste, or where is the prince, became so associated with evil that even today, for women that are known as being deceitful, are called a Jezebel. Her story is told in 1st and 2nd Kings. Jezebel was actually a princess. She was the daughter of a Phoenician king who became queen of Israel. And although King Ahab was the king of Israel, everyone knew that Jezebel was the power behind the throne. Under her influence, Ahab gave Baal, the pagan god, equal place with God. Because of her wicked ways, she has become known as the bad girl of the Bible. If you had to rank them, she's at the very top of that list. So what does Jezebel represent in the Bible? Jezebel actually represents a certain type of person. And I want to pause there for effect. Person, not woman or male. Because guess what? The spirit of Jezebel can be in a man or a woman. Okay, let's get back to things. So Jezebel represents a certain type of person who has no regard for things such as truth, honor, and faithfulness. Evidence that would contradict what they believed did not interest them. Their only concern was their reputation and the preservation of their way of life. For some people, this could be their religious way of life, and for others, their secular way of life. But whatever it is, they are very single-minded and ruthless about it. If they have to resort to intimidation and threats, they don't care because they have no regard for human feelings or sensitivities. They cannot feel the pain that they inflict on other people because in a sense, they have no heart. They're happy to mess with you and your psyche, appearing to stand for one thing while doing something totally different. The story of Jezebel in the Bible is filled with lessons on what not to do. Lesson 1, don't use good qualities for evil. So we know the bad things about Jezebel, but was there anything good in Jezebel? She did have some good qualities, but she just used them for evil. For example, she was smart, but she used her intelligence to come up with evil schemes. She had boldness and courage, but she used those to intimidate others and commit murder. She had strong leadership abilities, but she used them to control her husband and to take over the throne. She was assertive, but she used that quality to turn people away from God versus to God. She was of royal lineage, but she used her background to manipulate her subjects. Lesson 2, don't use power to do wrong. That's what Jezebel teaches us. Jezebel used her power and influence to get her way. She literally got away with murder and did many other evil things. Jezebel's sole purpose was to destroy those who opposed her, who disagreed with her line of thinking. And as a result, even God's prophets were intimidated by Queen Jezebel. And they had good reason to be afraid. She commanded most of them to be killed. Even the most revered prophet of God in the Old Testament, Elijah, was fearful of Jezebel, to the extent that Elijah had to run away from her so that his life would be spared. Next, she teaches us not to serve idol gods. Jezebel encouraged her husband, King Ahab, to abandon the worship of Yahweh and promote the worship of the deities of Baal. And because of Jezebel's heavy involvement in idolatry and the influence that she had on her husband, Ahab turned his back on God, such that during Ahab's reign, the worship of God became almost non-existent. And one of the last lessons that I've noted that we can learn from Jezebel, and it's one to take note of: you will reap what you sow. Jezebel lived about 10 years after the death of King Ahab. And the prophet Elijah's successor, Elisha, the prophet, equally determined as Elijah to end the worship of Baal, had a military commander by the name of Jehu anointed to be king of Israel, an act that provoked civil war for Jezebel's son, Jehoram, who took over rulership after his father Ahab's death. Jehu killed Jezebel's son and then went to the palace after Jezebel. Now, of course, Jezebel was expecting him, and she adorned herself for the occasion. Very bold. She looked down from her window, taunting him, and that's when Jehu ordered Jezebel to be thrown out the window. And later, when he commanded that she be properly buried as a king's daughter, it was discovered that dogs had eaten most of her body. Now, if you recall, the prophet Elijah prophesied Jezebel's death to that end. The lesson here is that Jezebel was met with a gruesome death because of her transgressions against God and her evil deeds against the people of God. Everything in the Bible is there for a reason, even examples of evil people. Jezebel comes close to the top of that list of evil people, and the top of the list for bad girls of the Bible. The story of Jezebel teaches us that only God is deserving of our worship, not the modern idols of materialism, wealth, fame, or power. Those who disobey God's commandments for their own greedy desires should expect horrible consequences. Jezebel's story reminds us that we have to be careful. Peradventure, we have a little bit of Jezebel in us. To avoid this Jezebel spirit, it is important that we continually turn to God, not use our influence to turn others away from God. Treat people with love and respect, and not manipulate people to get your way. Jezebel's story should teach us that no bad deed goes unpunished. Think about that the next time that you want to act in a way that might remind you of that Jezebel spirit. Thank you so much for joining me today. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bye.